Another episode of the 918 Files. This morning we are joined by Captain Robert Salas, my fellow Air Force veteran. Robert, morning.
Good morning, Jason. Good to see you.
Yeah, same. So let me ask you. So you served in the U.S. Air Force, correct? You're an Air Force Academy grad,
That's right.
and then you were in the missile field. So how did you end up in the missile field back in the? So when did you join though? Was it the 60s?
Well, I joined at the Air Force Academy in 1960, graduated in 64, and then I was active duty. Uh, and I went through. I I started uh, flight training or pilot training uh, right after graduation in August. I did not finish. I don't. Uh, Not proud of that. I don't want to go into why, but uh, from there I went to Tyndall Air Force Base, working as what's called a weapons controller. Basically, we're training Air National Guard pilots on intercept missions. Um as you can imagine, it simply means if we have incoming aircraft, how we would go about intercepting them. That's what that was about. I did that for about a year or so, and then this opportunity came along to get into the missile field, and um, the appeal there was to get an advanced degree in engineering, which sounded pretty good. And so I accepted the assignment. Of course, I was ordered, but uh, it seemed like a good assignment. So that's after about a year then of training. I went to Malmstrom Air Force Base was my first operational assignment in missiles.
Okay, yeah, because you were in a different era. So the 60s, 70s, Cold War time frame, right? So it's
Right.
different mentality than what because I was in the military. So I like we were talking earlier, I retire next month or September. So but when I came in 97, it was kind of the end of the Cold War time frame. And then of course September 11th kind of changed everything and then it kind of went to the global war on terrorism. But you were in that during that time period of constant alert because my dad he's retired Air Force as well, and I was Air Force brat, so I kind of grew up as a kid in the 80s, and I kind of you kind of see it from a different perspective. So, but you're in the
Uh,
thick of the fight. So, and who's this guy right here?
well, that's me, 1968.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, it's the old school uniform. So
Yep, old school.
love it. So yeah, because so in my background, I did 4 years at Aviano, and then I went to FE Warren, so which is over in Cheyenne. It's kind of a similar mission set as Maelstrom, the northern tier uh, bases. So let me do a. You can see the screen, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is kind of give people an idea of where Maelstrom's at. It's basically it's in this general area, and not to get it's over by Great Falls, but not to get too into the weeds with how these locations work. But you have the base, and then in the outlying areas, you have like the launch facilities and the MAFs and everything else. So explain. So you were involved in an incident. What was it? 1967, right?
Right. March 24, 1967.
Okay. So in regards to that incident, you were not on base, correct? You were at the launch facility or the MAF or
Yeah, it's called the Launch Control Facility, and we were underground, which we call the Launch Control Center, LCC. and our location was at Oscar Flight at the time, and that is about 100 miles due east of Great Falls, by a little town called Roy, Montana. And yeah, so we had 10, we were in charge of 10 Minuteman 1 ICBMs, and they were in these silos about a mile or two away from our launch control facility. And about it kind of encircled us, uh, and that's what we were in charge of.
And you were the guy, so basically sitting down in the control center, right? And then you have all the different launch facilities in the immediate area, kind of. But you were downstairs with the controls with other people, correct?
There were just two of us, a
Yep.
crew of two, underground, about 60 feet below the surface, and we had about six guards upstairs, that would, of course, respond to various security issues we might have.
The elite security forces guys, right? The
You
best in the Air Force.
you bet.
Okay, so now describe to me what happened on that day, like what was seen, what happened, like explain the whole situation that went on.
Yeah, this happened. Started in the evening hours. I can't say exactly what time. I don't recall. Uh, my commander was taking a rest break. We had a little cot down there because one of us had to be on alert, alert, basically awake and ready to go at all times. So until we were relieved the next day. So we were down there for 24 hours. Uh, so I was in command of the facility at the time. And I get a call from my topside guard. We called him the flight security controller. Um, and a strange little call. He said, "Sir, we've been seeing some lights flying overhead. They were doing some strange maneuvers, flying very fast, stopping in midair, reversing course, doing 90-degree turns." uh, and they couldn't detect any engine noise. And he said it was odd, so he wanted to report it. I didn't know why he wanted to really tell me about lights in the sky, except, I mentioned, you mean like UFOs? Because we had actually had reports in the Great Falls Tribune and Great Falls of people reporting lights in the sky, and yeah, calling, was reporting UFOs in Great Falls that very week, actually. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and there's been numerous reports about these types of activities, right? At FE Warren, Minot, Malmstrom over the years. There's been plenty of them. So,
absolutely, yeah.
all right, but so back to what happened with your incident, though.
So, uh, he didn't laugh really. I was just trying to make a little joke out of it, but he said, this was a serious report. Um, but there was nothing to do then. I said, well, let me know if something interesting happens, and basically hung up. And then about 5 minutes later, he calls back, and this time he's really agitated, sounds frightened. He's babbling. I can't make sense of what he's trying to say. And finally calm him down. He's says, "Sir, there's a glowing red orange object hovering right above the front gate of the facility." He's got all the guards out there, their weapons pointed at this thing, and he wanted me to tell him what to do next. Of course, I was shocked by this, but obviously something was going on up there, very serious to them because of his attitude. Is he was just very frightened, uh, and so wound up. I said finally, just take care that nothing enters the launch control facility inside the gated or the fenced area. So do what you have to. And then he said one of his guards got injured and he hung up the phone. And so first thing I did is I instinctively, I don't know why, but I instinctively looked over at my panel, a status panel that we had showing the status of each missile, um, and a bank of lights. And they were all green at that point. Then I went over to wake up my commander to tell him about these phone calls. And just as I was about to tell him about the calls, we get a big horn, large horn in the capsule, indicating that something's wrong with one of the missiles. So we both jump up, look at the board, and sure enough, one of them went into a no-go condition or a unlaunchable condition. And soon thereafter, the rest of them went down, all 10 of them, right after that first one. So we had some procedures we had to go through, and we went through those procedures. One of them was to check what we called Versa or a voice activated system that would tell us what was the problem. And they were all reading out a guidance and control system failure. So all 10. We also had a couple of lights indicating a possible incursion or intrusion at the two of the launch facilities. And so I had to call back up to send guards out there. I did call, and in the meantime, my commander called the wing command post to report this. First thing I asked, of course, is what about this red object out there? And he said that just flew off just as I called at high speed. Asked him about the guard. The guard that got injured was a minor injury, but it was a cut in his hand that had to be taken care of. He needed stitches, so I think we sent him back to the base right away. And then I ordered the security teams to go out to two of those sites where we had these intrusion lights or incursion lights. And that was that. We everything else seemed to be fine upstairs then. And then my commander turned to me after he made this call to the wing command post. The same thing happened at another flight. Now, flight of missiles is another launch control facility like ours. I thought he meant that evening, but I would later find out it was the Echo flight incident that occurred 8 days earlier. So that's the essence of what happened. We had to wait. Of course, we called in for support from the maintenance teams to go out there and restart the missiles, and wait for our replacement crew, which would come the next morning. So that's basically it. Do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I would be thinking of from a security forces perspective, number one, I'd be like, man, I'm gonna get paperwork for this. You have if all your missiles they all get shut down, I'd have been like, man, I'm getting something for this. But so when the the military police security forces guys went out to the launch facilities. Did they ever find anything? There was obviously nothing.
Yes, yeah. They got out there. They got close, and again saw these objects hovering above the missiles, the two facilities, and they reported back into the flight security controller. They really didn't want to go any further, so
Yeah, I
we.
don't blame them. I mean, it's if I saw something hovering over the, you know, these facilities, I probably would be like,
Yeah,
close enough to where I can defend myself. But I'm
yeah,
a
but
curious guy, but I have my limits.
well, exactly, and we didn't know exactly what was going on. We had no idea, uh, what these objects were or what they could do. Um, what kind of weapons they might have had.
So let me ask.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask. So what do you think the intent? I mean, I know this is all speculation, but because like we said earlier, this isn't the first time. It wasn't the last time. What do you think is the intent of stuff like this? Because I mean, and it's not just isolated either to the northern tier bases. I mean, there's that well documented incident over in England with the Air Force base over there. But it's kind of like when they do stuff like shut the weapons down. Do you think it could be something like showing their capabilities of like, hey, we can do this, or is it kind of like a message saying y'all need to stop with this type of stuff? Like, what in your opinion um,
Yeah,
is?
let me just say a couple of things about that. Um, First of all, the missile systems were not damaged. There was no equipment damage to any of the systems on the missile itself or our equipment in the capsule. Um, all they did was upset the guidance system. It required retargeting each of the missiles, so we had to send maintenance crews out there, and it took about a day or so to get them all back up online. But again, there was no damage done. So, uh, and in addition, as you mentioned, have been other instances where you mentioned Aviano Air Base. You were stationed there for a while.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, there was an incident there in '79, I believe, uh, where a UFO came over. Um, uh, I don't think it's any secret that NATO bases had small nukes um, stored in some of the bases. I think Aviano was one of them. That's been mentioned in public documents. I'm not releasing anything classified here.
neither confirm nor deny.
Yes. So, but uh, the object came over Aviano, shone a beam of light on the storage facility or near it, and then flew off. The same thing happened at Rendlesham.
Yep, that's the one I was thinking about.
Uh, a lot of people saw those objects, and two airmen in the tower near where the storage of weapons were, nuclear weapons, had shown a beam of light on the storage area and then flew off. So again, to me, this indicates a message. The fact that there was no damage done to our weapons and they were just flying over some of these nuclear weapon sites. I think they're sending us a message, and that message is get rid of these nukes. They are not weapons of war. We can't use these in wartime. Not a war anybody expects to survive. Um, they would simply be weapons of massive destruction, annihilation of populations and every living thing on Earth if it got to all-out nuclear war.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's almost like it's a check and balance is what these things are. So it's like if you use yours, I'm going to use mine, and then we're all going to be in a world of hurt. So it's kind of like that prevents combat. So, but let me ask you this. So, because in Arizona, we've had our fair share of, weird stuff in the sky. And the biggest one, the most documented, is the event from 97 with the Phoenix Lights. Um, and that's the thing too, when I look at these investigations and these incidents, is I like to find situations where, the cop in me is looking for the credible witnesses, like people with backgrounds like yourself. You have separated witnesses, because if you take an incident where there's two or three credible witnesses for an event, and then you put them in a group of 50, you now have 53 witnesses, right? Because everyone's going to want a piece of the story. So, but with like the Phoenix Lights, you have different situations, different witnesses over different areas that didn't communicate, all saying the same thing. And as you know, because you've done a lot of research with UFOs, and I'll show your books real quick. So you have three books, correct?
Correct.
So you have this one, these are two of them, and this is your most recent one, the UAPs.
Right.
But the thing is kind of like you have all these documented situations or incidents all over the US, all over the world. Like, do you see a pattern with what's going on?
Well, again, the pattern is if they wanted to send us a message about the ridiculous concept that we're all living under now, which is the um, nuclear deterrence concept, which was generated in the 50s after Russia became a nuclear power. I think in 1949, they completed their first test. Uh, but after that, our idea of national security became this nuclear deterrence concept of having at least as many nuclear weapons as our perceived enemies. But of course, and then try to keep other countries from developing nuclear weapons. Well, we know that hasn't worked out. Uh, there are 9 countries now that have nuclear weapons, and there could be more in the future. Um, and what happens? What's going to happen is uh, this increases the risk of one of those countries using a nuke in a particular conflict because there's a lot of so-called miniaturization of nukes going on now, including both the U.S. and Russia and other countries developing what they consider small tactical nukes. Um, but these small tactical nukes are about the same size as the ones that were used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They can do the same damage. And the use of the smaller nukes could very easily develop into use of the larger ones once they're used again.
Yeah,
So it's a very dangerous concept, this nuclear deterrence idea, because if we think it's a great idea to maintain a large arsenal of nuclear weapons in land, sea, and air, so do other countries will come to the same idea or conclusion, and and for their own security, try to develop their own nukes. And like I said, this has happened, and it probably will continue to happen.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, the U.S. government is kind of try to they've done their part when it comes to like the UFO investigations, because it is kind of a national security type incident when you have something like that you experienced where it comes over a nuclear facility, and it's just kind of like, is it the other guy, or is it something that we don't know what it is? You know what I'm saying? Is it because it's kind of like that's a bad thing if you're talking, let's say, a country like China is able to, not to get into the political science of all this, whatever, but let's say a country like China is able to infiltrate the communication systems of our defense, aspects. I mean, that's a dangerous thing. So if they have technology to come over and turn stuff off, we can't defend ourselves. That's a problem. So it's not just a UFO thing, it's a national security thing.
Right. And I think the government has already admitted that some of these so-called drones or objects, unknown objects that have flown over sensitive facilities, they have no explanation for. So what have we got? We've got a hole in intelligence there. We can't explain a potential threat. Eventually, our government will have to admit that there are objects, flying objects out there that can do some pretty amazing things, including shutting down missiles, that we have no control over.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous thing. So, and then as you're familiar with Project Blue Book, which we have a whole blog on the topic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of cases that come from Arizona, but it's kind of the same thing where the U.S. government was looking into this stuff, not necessarily because of UFOs and aliens and whatever, but because of the national security reasons for it. So, and let's say it is some sort of like a out of this world type thing. That's also national security measure too, because if you have some other thing that's coming to in our area and turning off our ability to defend ourselves, that's a problem. Whether it's human or otherworldly thing, like that's it's a massive problem. We just can't ignore it. And I think that was kind of the focus on Project Blue Book, but you know.
Yeah, well, Blue Book started, of course, it started right after Roswell, really. Um, and it evolved initially, it was an honest attempt to try and understand what had been seen during World War II, these Foo Fighters, they called them. And then, of course, uh, the civilian sighting in June of 47. And then again, the Roswell incident at the only nuclear base that we had at the time. And so I think Blue Book came out of that. It was kind of a public, intended to inform the public about studies or reports of UFOs, because people were seeing them. There was a couple of famous movies that were taken. One in Montana, actually, in Great Falls. Forgot the name of that person that took those, but it was an actual filming of a group of UFOs flying over Great Falls, and this was 1950, I think it was. So it was an honest attempt, and then at one point, Blue Book said they'd like to give a presentation on what they think this phenomenon is to the Chief of the Air Force. Happened to be Hoyt Vandenberg at the time, and this was 1948. It was called The Estimate of the Situation. So Blue Book came up with a very good presentation, and their conclusion was these are not terrestrial objects. Uh, they are extraterrestrial objects. Well, Vandenberg didn't like that answer and basically told them no, they didn't have enough evidence to come to that conclusion, even though we don't know what evidence was presented. I think I don't think a copy of that estimate of the situation still exists, although Edward Ruppelt, who ran Blue Book for a while, did talk about it in his book as being a very convincing report. But at any rate, the Air Force decided to tamp it down, and they called the original project was called Project Sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tamped it down, called it Project Grudge, where the effort was more in the area of trying to discredit reports or explain them in normal ways, I guess, such as the swamp gas business.
Yeah, I've read about those, and I'm just kind of like, it's okay, nice try. And the thing too about Project Blue Book is, yeah, there's a lot of reported incidents that have, they try to say swamp gas or it was a weather balloon. Those are always my favorite too. But it's the ones, there's a lot of incidents in Project Blue Book where they're like, we don't know what this stuff is.
Right, exactly. So then there was this incident in 1966, I believe it was, in Michigan. Um, and that caused uh, people like Congressman Gerald Ford, for example, who was a congressman in Michigan at the time, to ask the Air Force to do a scientific study of this phenomenon and report back to the Congress. And that's when they initiated the Condon investigation, which turned out to be the Air Force took it as an opportunity to completely discredit the phenomenon and get out of the business of having to report to the public about it. And that ties in, and I write about that in my books also. That ties into what happened at Malmstrom and the cover up that ensued.
Yeah, because what I like about today's world is, and the foundation of the 918 files to begin with is, like I always tell people, it's those that are thought to be crazy, right? Because back in the day, if you came out and said, yeah, I saw a UFO, I don't know what this thing is and whatever, you could lose your clearance, you could be labeled crazy and all this other stuff. But in today's world, it's kind of, people are kind of more, they're becoming more open to it, but there's still that
Well,
stigma.
in the civilian world, but you may have heard of the PRP program, right?
Yeah, I was part of that for a long time, so
Okay, so
I
that's
know all about
that's
it.
that's how they keep military witnesses from coming forward. Yeah, so they're still at it. There's still a group within the government, within many of the military agencies, and also the intel agencies uh, that are working hard to keep these secrets.
And I get it, because a lot of time, let's say, because it is kind of a national security issue as well, because if you came out and said, yeah, there's stuff from, we don't know what this is, or if news came out tomorrow that this stuff is true, there'd be chaos, because there's a lot of people that just they can't accept that reality. But it kind of goes back to the days where, you know, if you thought the earth was round, you were labeled crazy too. And that was a game changer. But um,
Well, uh, I don't know about the chaos. Possibly some people would go a little nuts knowing the truth, but I think the majority of the people worldwide want to know the truth about this, uh, and for whatever it is, whatever uh, it might entail and whatever implications it might have. Uh, we want to know the truth from our governments. We don't want them to hide the truth from us. We want to deal with it as a people. And that's what you do in a democracy. The people should have the final say on what happens uh, with this situation, whatever it is.
Agreed. And humans are curious, or some are curious, because it still kind of blows my mind where we have technology, like we have the rovers and stuff on Mars that are sending back light, the images of a different planet. And a lot of people don't even care because they're so Netflix, Hulu, and they're just not even paying attention to all this stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think the release of information, especially in today's world, I think we're at a point now where you could release the information and say, "Hey, this is what it is. This is what we got. This is what we know. Figure it out." But I still, like I said, I still think there's that element of society to where if you came out and said, "Hey, something's coming from a different place other than this planet," you're going to have a sector of this society that's just going to not be able to accept that. So, but yeah, let me ask you. It kind of leads into this. Um, so you had this experience back in the '60s, and you've been just talking about this stuff for decades. So you're passionate about it, and I get it. What drives you though? Why keep talking about it? Why keep focusing? Like, what's the mission?
Oh, the mission is the truth, and unnecessary government secrecy, lying to the public basically about the matter, directly affects our democracy because it allows government to operate without public oversight. Uh, I mean, what if these are extraterrestrial beings that are visiting us, and we've developed weapons to shoot them down, destroy them, uh, take their machines and the beings, the non-human intelligence beings, uh, w- without ever telling the public that that's what they're doing. Like, um, so we've got a government that would be uh, starting to take over our constitutional rights. Uh, we'd be losing our a democratic form of government. So that's one of the things that motivates me to keep going. Uh, the other thing is what you said, I think, and that is we all want to know the truth of the matter, and we deserve the truth. We can handle the truth. We've got to handle the truth, whether we like it or not. So I happen to be a witness to something that happened that is true, and the public needs to know this, what happened, and and deal with it as we do with all the history that we encounter.
Yeah, because it's like, your stuff happened in Malmstrom. There's been stuff that happened in England. It's not just a localized thing. This is stuff that's documented all over the world. And I think hopefully in my lifetime, your lifetime, some kind of answer comes out and they're like, yes, this is, even if it's just a sliver of, what's going on. I
Right.
don't know. I think to me, it'd be super, I would love it. I've always been curious about this stuff. And this is probably my favorite topic of all of them, just because, it's human nature, right? Because imagine those Europeans standing on the west coast of Europe, just looking out over that ocean, wondering what's on the other side. And then, you know, that's human nature to be curious about what is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly. We're always curious about how things work, how the universe works, uh, and obviously we're going to be exploring, trying to explore different planets. We want to send people to Mars and then maybe other planets uh, because we are curious. We want to know what's out there. Is there other life forms out there? And maybe the government can answer that question right now. Yes, indeed. There are other life forms out there, intelligent life forms. Uh, but you know, the thing is, we here on Earth haven't done a very good job of dealing with the life forms we have here.
agreed. It's probably
So
what it means. That's why they don't stop and talk, because they just kind of look at Earth and they're just like, I don't know what's going on down there, but lock your doors.
yeah, they may
Lock
be shaking their
your
head.
doors. So, all right, Robert. Well, so any parting words of wisdom?
Well, like I said, I think the public needs to be more aware of these incidents involving UFOs and nuclear weapons. And there will be a hearing coming up in September, another congressional hearing. Uh, and I would just like to make an appeal to your audience to help me and other witnesses who have, and there are other witnesses willing to speak about their incidents involving the shutdown of nuclear weapons in front of the Congress and on a nationwide platform because these hearings are televised. And I think that would help spread the word worldwide, really, about this part of the phenomenon where I, for one, and other people, I'm sure, have concluded that these are extraterrestrial intelligences that have shown the ability to shut down our nuclear weapons. And I think they're sending us a message about that. The message being it's time to think seriously about abolishing all nukes worldwide. Of course, it won't happen overnight, but we can start that process. It's been started before uh, under other treaties. I'm thinking of um, the new, let's see, forgot the name of it, but it was under President Obama, where he and Putin got together and signed this treaty. And one of the objectives of the treaty was to get down to zero nukes between the two countries. So I think it can be done, but we should at least give it a try. So that's what I would appeal for. Uh, and yeah, if any of your audience out there want to call their congressman or senator and support having us as witnesses, that would certainly be appreciated. Excuse me.
Yeah, bless you. And
Yeah.
that's the thing too, to anyone listening. So if you've experienced something, if you've seen something, that is the goal of the 918 files, is to get people that are credible, that, you know, if that have seen something legitimate, to come forward and say, this is what I saw. Because one thing that drives me crazy is the amount of fake stuff that's out there. And it's getting worse because of AI and everything else. And people making, I mean, you can make all these videos now that are not even real. But if you have seen something that's legitimate, come forward and contact people like us or Robert, so we can get all these things documented. And because you never know, that you might be that one person that is the reason why stuff gets released someday. So,
You bet.
So, all right, Robert. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go back to the heat. You stay in the cool weather or cooler weather of California.
Yeah, well, Jason, it's been good to talk to you about this. I appreciate it, and yeah, I'll try to stay cool here.
Yes, sir. And
Yep.
as always, thanks for your service, because it's always the veterans that came before me that made my life easier. So
Same to you, Jason, and congratulations on your retirement. I think
yeah. Hey, don't
that's
jinx
gonna
it. I still got 30 days left.
be okay. All right.
All right. Well, Robert, good talking to you. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.